listeners and fans, welcome back to the show. James, you as well.
Thank you.
I want to start with an explanation of why you abandoned us last week.
Okay, I will explain. So, it all good news. Hey, listen.
Well, I mean, I know. I mean, like you're
Yeah,
telling
you
the
know.
royal
Yes, I
us.
am. I'm in a time of my life where good things are happening for me and my family, and we went to go see a house on the day that we were recording, and some time constraints with the sellers and the ability to show the house was the only time that we could go see it. So we had a good feeling about it. We went to go see it, and fast forward to today, we are moving. We got the house. We got our offer accepted, and we are moving to New Jersey.
Wow. All right. So you're just officially just fully abandoning us as Islander fans and not the show. But
Not the show.
I will say we were texting earlier today and we're recording this Sunday morning. We've traded our maybe our evening beers and seltzers and other things for coffee and morning beverages. Although I could kill somebody for a Bloody Mary, I'll tell you what. But
I'm still on seltzer. I'm doing that right now.
that's crazy. It is 11:30.
I have one at
You're
8:30, brother.
and you're moving to
8:30.
New Jersey from arguably Little New Jersey, better known as Staten Island. So it's really a lateral move at
Yeah,
best. But congrats and thanks
thank you.
again to Dan Sarcini for stepping in last minute.
Absolutely.
I'll be joining Islanders Anxiety later today. Hopefully, I'm not too repetitive. I'm a little worried about that.
You're just a media star. You got this. You know
I
how
doubt.
to keep it fresh.
I hope. I hope so. It was a very good episode. You said you listened to it.
It was.
Um, so I enjoyed our conversations. It was funny. So I write, I try to write some notes to like guide us through, and if we need stats or whatever. And obviously, all of my notes didn't make sense for Dan because I set it up so you and I could have a conversation. And some of it was about how I listen to Islanders Anxiety fairly regularly, and they've kind of just said that this team's identity is playing like assholes. And I've steered away mostly from saying that on this show because I don't want us like be seen as stealing the content. Now, we know them. Like, I don't think they would accuse us of anything, but I wanted to bring it up with you because I ran out of things to say, and that was pretty much how Dan and I just kicked off this conversation. But I do want to ask you, and we have a great many things to discuss today. We've talked about the Islanders not having an identity, and I've titled this even before we've recorded anything, "The Rudderless Islanders Losing Momentum," and there's a lot of reasons for that, and some of it is that their identity now is just recklessness. And I wanted to get your opinion on, more specifically on Dan and Mike Liebow's comment that like they're just playing like assholes. Is that just who they are right now? And there's other explanations. I don't want to get too deep into stuff, as I know you can see in my notes, like about coaching and things like that. But like, is that just who they are as a team right now?
It's interesting to say they play like assholes because there's so many different kinds of contexts that can be put in. Like, are they assholes in the sense of they play recklessly, like you said? Are they playing like assholes in the sense that they're just careless? Like, there's
All of it.
definitely been right. So, and all of the above, maybe the umbrella is accurate as a whole to little of this, little of that. Look, I mean, I don't know that it's coincidence that this is also happening in the wake of some like key injuries. I know that some have started to return. Pellick is back. Um, but they're still missing guys like Ryan Pullock. Semyon Varlamov is a huge miss. Like,
That I want to talk about later. The other comment on the D, and what I said to Dan, and I think we might even talk about it again on his show is, and I've said this to you, it's been irrelevant who's in the lineup, right? It's the same problems are happening. It's not a personnel issue. For the first time in a really long time, it's not a personnel issue because it's the same problems are happening with Robert Bortuzzo as they were, Mayfield and then Bortuzzo and then Mayfield again. And is Pellick in the lineup? He's out of the lineup. Is it Mike Riley? Is it Aho? All these things are the same. They're playing exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's a good point. Look, I think it's interesting. And I don't know if we're gonna talk about this uh in the notes actually. I don't remember. But to me, it's a coaching thing. Um I almost wonder if the Islanders win games in spite of the coaching here.
Oh my god, I don't think a truer
Okay.
sentiment on the team, and so like, well, let's get into that because I think that's kind of where.
So this is where I'm at with this. I think that the Islanders grew so much under Barry Trotz and now have this new coach. They had a little bit of regression under him, but maybe some self-reflecting as players as a whole. Guys like Matthew Barzell have come into their very own. Barzell's obviously an all-star now, or this season he's an all-star again, and playing probably the best hockey he's ever played in his career. That's of course got a lot to do with Bo Horvat, who has been fantastic this season. And really ever since he's come to the Islanders. Noah Dobson, this guy has been Norris worthy, right? Maybe he's not going to win it, but he's going to be in that conversation. Buoyed by the best goaltender, in my opinion, in the world, and Semyon Varlamov, who's playing just as well. Defense has surely been slacking. There's been holes and deficits there. But I think that all of these players, Simone I'm sorry, Simone Holmstrom, not Simone Nemec, wrong team. Simone Holmstrom, like, has kind of found his game and has turned into an actual pro here. He's not just a guy who has been brought up to the Islanders and he was the next best thing that they had to throw out on the ice. Like, he's legitimately an NHLer at this point. I think you've just seen the growth of a lot of players on this team, and that's helped them on the ice. But I don't think they're being coached well enough to win games properly. We will talk about Nashville, the game in Nashville later in the show, but I think that was a perfect example. They take a 1-0 lead late in the third period and completely blow the game.
Yeah,
So,
so I think there's part of the joke and how I wanted to start the show was that I think the Islanders have clearly just abandoned logic, right? And a lot of this is coaching decisions, frankly. And I think there's something just to like set the conversation up. We've established earlier in the season after that West Coast trip, Lane Lambert is not going anywhere, right? So you kind of have to separate that a little bit, and that's difficult when we're going to have the rest of this conversation. He's obviously not going to change, and I think there are specifics that definitely do need to be changed. I think the conversation I want to have before that is about I guess the question that I have is there a team in the NHL that would benefit from a coaching change more than the New York Islanders right now? Like, just again, the video that you showed me of that the team, now it was 7 seconds left, and I don't know how they were up 1-0. The game is then tied, and then they lose it. How did, like, walk me through the end of that? Oh, well, we'll talk about that later, I guess.
yeah,
I guess so.
real
Regardless of
quick.
how it ended, and because I missed it, I was bartending last night. So that's the reason for the gravelly voice. Um, the team leaves the bench with
Okay.
just less than 10 seconds. So that is a lot to unpack, and some of that is like the players are clearly rudderless, as I mentioned, as the title of the show. The morale isn't great. They've been inconsistent. They're 4-5-1 their last 10 games. They're not collecting that loser point anymore. We can't lean on that as a crutch. I think that some of that it's starting to wear on me. And I think it's bullshit anyway. But is there a team that could benefit more than the Islanders right now? I struggle to find that answer.
I think no. I think that's a good point. You look at some of the teams that have done it already. It's not working out in Ottawa. I'll just get ahead of that right now, but it is working out in Edmonton. They're on a heater, 10 straight games. They're playing really well. It started to work in Minnesota. It's not working so much right now. They had a closed door meeting last night, but I think the fact of the matter is, except for the Oilers, the Islanders are better than the 3 out of 4 of those teams, not named the Oilers. So I think that, yes, a coaching change, although it's probably not going to happen it is probably necessary. I think that Lambert does see through the rest of this season, but he just hasn't been able to find the structure. Now, look, is anybody going to be as structured as Barry Trotz in today's era? Maybe not, but some structure. Like there's no structure here. We're almost talking Bill Guerin hockey. And that was I'm sorry, not Bill Guerin, Doug Wade hockey. And that was, just out of
Chaos.
control. That
And
was
Dan and I
chaos.
spoke about that last week, and that was some of how I'm thinking about this team is there's so many similarities.
Right.
They have some like not high power. They were scoring a ton of goals, and they scored like
Yeah.
300 goals that season. It was
Yeah, they
ridiculous.
scored a ridiculous amount of goals. They had like I think on average, um I want to say their power play was scoring at like a 30% rate that year, which is crazy. But they also couldn't keep the puck out of their net. The PK was like 31st of 31 teams.
Yeah, and this
So,
was again, yeah, it's PK, and the goalies weren't. They're not Ilya Sorokin and Varlamov, but they were
no.
goalies that they had depended on around
Yeah.
that time and would
Was it
later depend on. Is that
was it
Halak and
Grice and
Grice?
Halak? I think it
Yeah,
was.
and so later on is it's Grice and somebody else. I can't even remember, but like those are goalies that they depended on in their first playoff series win in this is our first round playoff series win in whatever amount of time, and
Right.
like so it wasn't again, it was not a personnel issue, and I think that's it's just as much on
Well,
defense, but the rest of the team, yes, they can add, and I think they can get better, but it's to me, I'm looking at this team, and it's clearly not the guys, right?
let me just add one thing here. The game-winning goal for Nashville last night, Matt Martin completely out of position, totally not where he's supposed to be, left his man uncovered, out on the ice in the last literally 10 seconds of the game. I think, look, Matt Martin is, in my opinion, send him to the rafters. I don't care. He doesn't belong on the ice in a full time capacity anymore, in my opinion. As
Well,
much of
not
a glue guy he is, a locker room guy, Julian Gauthier should be out there playing for the Islanders because he's shown he can be a little bit more responsible. Now he has his faults too, but I think that I think that it's over for certain guys, and Matt Martin is one of them.
I think more. I think more than that, it's fine. Be in the lineup. I agree with you. I don't like it, but okay, he's in the lineup. That's one questionable decision by Lambert. Then to have him out there in that point of the game at all is something that's been happening all season.
Sure.
And you look at the
Yeah.
team, and it's again, it's I don't think it's the personnel. I think it's how they're deployed and simply not having the right guys out there. He's
Yeah.
insistent on starting this fourth line. He's insistent on Cizikas and Clutterbuck. Well, Cizikas has been out of the lineup the last few games on starting them on the PK. And it just, and then at the end of games, he doesn't shorten the bench in the right way. He's putting the wrong players out. If they're up, he's the wrong guys. If they're tied, it's the wrong guys. If it's late in the game and you're up 1-0, I don't. So, and it's one thing that the game gets tied, right? Fine, it's going to happen, and I think in isolated moments, the Leafs game, um, that's going to happen, right? You're gonna come back. The other team's going to tie it, and you're going to win it in overtime. And I think in that was I think overall that was a fairly good game. But again, it's at the end of games, you're just letting it go. You're losing the thread. You're rudderless. You're sputtering. There's a lot of words that you can use. A lot of that has to do with deployment. And I think that's some of the penalty kill woes as well. I think some of that's also structure, but a lot of this is just coaching, and it's bad, consistently bad decisions. I can't get away from that. Like I agree with you that Martin shouldn't be in the lineup every day. More importantly, why is he the first player? Why is he and Clutterbuck guys just like literally limping along on the ice in critical moments? They're not what they used to be. They don't set the tone. This team doesn't have an identity anymore. That moniker is gone. They are not the identity line. As much as we want to think that, it's over. and then he just keeps doing it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Look, I think Clutterbuck still has it if he's not hurt. I think Suzuki's does too, but I think Martin is definitely hurting right now. Hurting the team and hurting the product on the ice. And, again, you're right. Even though, they can throw him out there for 8 minutes a game and really not worry about it too much, it's more on the coaching for the fact that he's out there in a crucial moment in the last 10 seconds, last minute of a game. And trying to defend and get the puck out of the zone. Whereas, maybe you should have the Nelson line out there who has shown the ability to forecheck pretty well and get the puck
Have
out
your
of
best players out there for
right.
fuck's sake. It's
Yeah.
it's not, and you have a top six, and even you throw down like they're strong down the middle. Something we've said about this team for a long time, with or without Suzuki in the lineup. You have 4 strong centers. You can have 2 centers out there in the last 4 minutes going back and forth. You can have 2 centers out there almost the entire time.
Right.
Obviously, at least 1. But for a majority of it, you can even have 2 if you like that idea. Arguably, they're your best players. Not just your most important, but arguably your best players.
Right.
And then you can have guys on the edges that the wingers, and you have a lot of those players too that are very defensively responsible that will eat pucks. I don't want to see Palmieri kind of go down and block a shot, but he'll do it. And instead you have the bottom 6 out there that just isn't doing it. You're sitting Barzell. Dude, talk to him after the game. Martin throws a fucking pizza up the ice. Clutterbuck did it a couple weeks ago, or a couple games ago, rather. Just lollipop bullshit that any PB coach would also point out was, a bad play. And nothing's going to happen. Yet Barzell has like kind of not his best game, and he sits the last 5 minutes. What? How are you doing? Like, what is the rationale? Right? Again, Clutterbuck does it. That line isn't successful. Then Martin goes out and does the same thing. Guaranteed they're starting the next game. Almost guaranteed. There's no accountability. There's no discipline. There's no, again, and it's to the wrong players. Don't just do it. This is like typical Lamoriello stuff where you're just going to discipline the younger players. You're going to give the veterans more rope simply because they've been around longer. That's not, they haven't learned either. At least give the kid the opportunity, the younger player. Put Holmstrom out there late in the game. Put Gauthier out there. Give them at least some experience. And time hasn't passed them by, and that's not an obvious excuse, right? It's just mind-boggling. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Bottom line is that it is, it's coaching decisions. And as nice as it was to see, the Islanders put together the streak that they put on, and not to say that they won consecutive games, but they were playing good hockey for a long time. I think that really is more a result of the leaders in the room. I think that's more a result of some players taking a step into their primes, some breakout years, and I think it has way less to, and obviously goaltending, and has way less to do with the people calling the shots behind the bench. I I don't think Lane Lambert is what people thought he was going to be, and look, there's some really good coaches out there right now. I'm not saying that they're going to make a mid-season change, but you know, I think I think this team has proved that forget the age narratives, forget all that bullshit. This team has proved that they can win games. I don't think that they're sitting here there wondering what is this team. Paul Mary, when healthy, which he is, look at how good he's playing. Brock Nelson continues to be a reliable scoring threat. Um, Horvat is all around an excellent player. Matt Barzell, he's an all-star. Noah Dobson, fantastic. Alexander Romanov has been a revelation this year. Ilya Sorokin, like you have the parts. Get someone who can make the or call the shots behind the bench.
I think just as much as it's poor decisions, and this is, I think Lamoriello is in the same boat. if Lambert's your guy and you let a Trotz walk away, um, you can't fire Lambert because that means you made a bad decision. And I think Lambert does this much the same thing. Well, you put Martin in the lineup, I got to play him, and that's his defense.
I
So,
think that
and it's not defense. Like that's not the that's not the way that you should operate, right? It's a results business. You
right.
can't just say, "Oh, well, I put him in the lineup, so I got to play him." You don't need to do either of those things. Certainly not the latter.
Well, and you super don't have to sit there and say, "Oh, well, I fired Barry Trotz to hire this guy. He has to work."
And that's what I'm
You
saying. So, like, you're
it's
just
more
doing this.
honorable to say, "Okay, this didn't work. I tried something, it failed. I need to pivot."
Yeah, I'm not sure that he like swallowing your pride is something that he fully understands. Now he's
And look, we
done.
go ahead.
No, no, it's funny because he's just done crazier things. He literally stepped behind the bench in New Jersey
Correct.
on a winning team.
Yeah. Well,
It
that's what I'm talking about. Where is that Lamorello? Because we say this with them sitting in the second wild card spot, but they were in second place last week. They were ahead of Carolina. They were ahead of Philadelphia. They weren't even looking at Tampa Bay and worrying about, oh, what are they doing right now?
Yeah, and the conversation switches to like taking care of your own
Yeah.
business to now having to scoreboard watch, and now it's not scoreboard watching. How are you going to be positioned in the top three of the Metro? It's now you have to look at the entire East and who's getting hot and who's not, and oh, Carolina and the Devils, and they're 1 point this, and it's okay. Well, now Tampa Bay, and now whoever else is in that mix. It just I think something that I said a number of episodes ago. I think we even it's just this team is exhausting, and you're making it really hard to enjoy some of the wins. Like I can't even be excited about that win against Toronto. Right? It's really hard because they come back, and then if that was isolated, it's fine. It's just every game can't be like this. And and additionally, and I think we're seeing that now. Again, they're 4-5-1 their last 10 games. They've had opportunities to separate themselves. They lost that opportunity against Pittsburgh. They had an opportunity to really get some confidence against the Avalanche, and they blew it. Vegas was seriously depleted. They had a lot of injuries. Then they have like a complete game against Arizona. What I can't. There's something to be proud of there. You can't walk away from that road trip going, you know what, that was good. No, I don't care. You got 3 points in out of what is it? Was it 3 or 4 out of 6 or something like that? They managed to kind of crawl their way out of that and looking somewhat positive. But I'm over that, and I want to wait to have the point conversation in a second. But I don't know. They're losing their way, and now it's becoming difficult. We've long accepted there's no coaching change. There's really not room to make any moves. And then just kind of watching a car crash over and over. And every once in a while, there's a little glimmer of hope. Did they do it? Did they pull together? Come back, win. Strong, complete game here. The game in Nashville, by all accounts, was a pretty good game for 90 something percent of it. It's these little glimmers of hope. And if it wasn't a trend 15 games in, and it wasn't a trend 25 games in, approaching 45 games, like I don't know. Do I need to like look it up, the definition, or like and mail it to the team or something? Like what are we doing here? What's the plan? So I don't. The rest of the season is just going to be what? Like, and maybe that's the question here. Like, how do we proceed in watching this? Are the expectations that they make the playoffs and cross our fingers, whatever happens, or what? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think, it's weird because like we were talking about when they were in a different position, that this team is just going to figure out what they are. And now they kind of escalated themselves from that conversation, and now we're sitting here and saying to ourselves, well, they're still kind of doing that even on their downslide. And it's just such a mind pretzel that this has put us in, because we, again, like I said before, we saw what this team could be. They just need the right guy behind the bench to make these decisions. And there's no question that they're a playoff team if the right person is making these decisions. They have the parts. They just need the controller. Oh, that was so good. I love myself for that one.
All right, so we'll end the first segment here. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back on the other side with some more conversation. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. The Islanders are at plus 102 against the Minnesota Wild tonight as you're listening to this show on Monday. And you can make that bet with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN, and new customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. So going off of your last point there, James, I think it's important to mention now, especially because they haven't been collecting that loser point, and they've been they're nearly 500, or maybe by NHL account 500. But I kind of understand the collect what you can approach for a little while. I don't know that that's fully sustainable, and now we're just seeing them consistently just shit their pants at the end of every game, and it's not acceptable. And we've kind of gone on a long rant about that, but it's even when they were doing it, it's beginning to lose its luster, and you just need to start winning hockey games. You need to start if you are a playoff team, as you suggested, and it really is a matter of a coaching change. Until then, you need to have progress. You're just losing momentum. The points aren't there. The momentum that you had even just staying in the top of the division, like we said earlier, just isn't there. So how do they? Is it possible? Like, yeah, I guess I just don't fully know. I guess we're not really we're going back to the first segment of the show. I don't know how to proceed as a fan. And is it just cross your fingers until or if there's a coaching change?
I guess, right? Like, you have to hope that Anders Lee and Bo Horvat can rally the room and be like, hey, let's pick it up. Like, we've played better than this before. Let's lock it down late in games now. Because look, even if Lane is using those same phrases verbatim, the message isn't being sent, and that also comes down to system. Like, he's not also implementing the system that's going to help, lock things down late in games. You can't just be like, oh, Sorokin will make the save, we're fine by it. Like, you also have to give him the opportunity to make those saves. Like, let's talk about last night's game in Nashville. Okay. The Islanders go up 1-0, 12 minutes into the third period. Scoreless game, back and forth. Ilya Sorokin buoyed them. Regardless, 8 minutes left in the game, you can't lock it down. You can't continue to go on the attack and possess the puck and forecheck well and pressure that puck and make sure that Nashville has a really hard time getting quality shots on net. Sure enough, I want to say how many minutes later did they tie it up? Yeah, 3 minutes and 8 seconds later, they tied it up. And now you're saying to yourself, hold on, been here before, all too familiar of a feeling about what's about to happen. And clock's winding down. The Predators continue to press the gas, possessing the puck, winning puck battles. The Islanders are just out of sorts. And Alexander Carrier's shot deflects off of somebody who's in the net front and over Sorokin's shoulder and in with 7 seconds left. And you're like, yep, there it is. Knew that that was happening, right? Look, you have to be able you have to be able to sever the momentum. You have to be able to, match the style of the game that your opponent is playing. If they're really pressuring you, you got to force the puck the other way. Don't just continually ice the puck, throw it out of the zone, and hope that it's just going to work, because you're going to tire yourselves out. You're not going to be able to get off the ice, and you're not going to be able to make a change and get fresh legs out there to properly defend.
And
You can't.
I'll add this. There are ebbs and flows to games, and we saw this under Trotz, that they were like, as a bend don't break kind of thing. But continue. I'm sorry.
Right. So, and that's what it was. They completely broke. They can't just depend on Sorokin making the ridiculous saves that he makes pretty much on a nightly basis. Like, I don't think there's any question. Like, obviously Sorokin started the year struggling. He's back. He's fully back, and he's been fantastic. You just can't depend on that every waking moment of the game. You have to give him a bit of a break and make a defensive play every once in a while too. So, and I'm not talking about just the blue line. I'm talking about the defense as a whole here, and that didn't happen. So, um, I do want to mention though what we spoke about. We alluded to it earlier in the show, and people are talking about it on social media now. It was kind of blown up to be something that I don't necessarily think it is. So you didn't get to watch this game last night, correct?
I watched bits and pieces of it, and I watched the recap. Like I said, I was at the bar, so I
Okay.
didn't have the ability to
So
do that.
as I was, doing my post game stuff from the Devils game, they started earlier yesterday. All 32 teams played, which we should do more of that, by the way. Really cool. Um, but I was watching the game, and look, here's what happened. Right, the Islanders went down 2-1 with 8 seconds left. The Predators also then scored another empty net goal. There was a timeout by Lambert. They were trying to draw up a strategy to try and tie the game with 8 seconds left. Lost the faceoff. Bit of a struggle to get the puck to the net with 8 seconds left for Nashville, but they eventually did. And as that third goal went into the empty net, the buzzer also went off. So the Islanders thought they lost, thought it was over. They started heading into the room, right? The guys on the ice heard from the refs, we have to drop the puck. There's 0.3 seconds left. The rest of the team was in the room. They didn't know. They heard the buzzer. They were frustrated, got off the bench into the locker room as any team would. Now, the fact is that in Nashville, the locker rooms are behind the benches. In another arena, say UBS, that's not the case. They go onto the ice and skate to where the Zambonis or those doors open
I
up
think
and
at
go to the
UBS,
locker room.
I think it is right behind the bench.
So
Yeah,
then
I
maybe
understand
we're
what you're
thinking of
saying.
Nassau Coliseum. Regardless, in another arena where they have to skate across the ice, no one's going anywhere. They didn't know. I think the other team started getting off the bench too. So they quickly had to drop the puck. There was 0.3 seconds on the board. They didn't leave. It wasn't a mutiny. Like, we're out of here. Lambert is not the guy. We might be talking about that, but that's not that's not what they're talking about, and that's not what that was. The buzzer rang. The team got off the ice. They didn't realize it was 0.3 seconds because the final buzzer did go off as the third goal was scored with 0.3 seconds left. They had to quickly drop the puck. Bo Horvat stayed when he realized what was going on. I guess that makes it kind of look like what's going on here, but I think Bo Horvat is just that kind of guy. And that's not to say that the Islanders who weren't out there aren't that way. I just think that they didn't know, and Horvat realized something as everyone was getting off the ice. I think Hudson Fashing was out there too. I think it's a silly narrative. Now, I'll say this too.
Well, I think we started the show with talking about this a little bit. It's only half an hour ago, and I already forgot. I think we've meandered quite a bit. I understand they're frustrated, and it's late or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it is a silly narrative. I think I'm so frustrated. I'm choosing to see it the other way. I was
Well,
like
here's the
just
thing.
sitting in my anger as a fan for a second and not thinking about it logically. I'm just like, no, I don't know. Well, how did one person figure it out, not the rest of them? I don't know. That seems silly
So
to me.
the there was a couple videos going around. Some bigger names in the NHL media were commenting on it, and Thomas Hickey chimed in, and he said, "Hey guys, I was there. For context, Nashville scored an empty netter as the final horn sounded after taking a lead with 7 seconds left. Devastating loss. Team stormed to the dressing room, assuming the game was over. They shouldn't have had the face-off with no time left anyway. Optically, it doesn't look good, but it was nothing." And that's essentially what I'm saying. Like, this was nothing, and the team thought the game was over. The only reason why Nashville didn't head to the room was because they were, when home teams win, they celebrate on the ice. The losers go to the room, and that's what it was. I think that they thought the game was over, and I really don't think it's anything more than that.
I think the one part of my brain that and the approach we typically take here is that. So I appreciate that. But like I said, I think I'm so mad about this team, and mainly because they're so much better than what we're seeing. And clearly, right? They have a period or a period and a half every game where they play like assholes, or they just seemingly forget, or it's bad coaching decisions, whatever the case is, whatever the foundational issues are there and the reasons why it's happening. I see something like this, and it just is hard for me to separate the fact that it seems like everything is not put together very well, and it's discombobulated, whatever word you want to use. It just seems like more dysfunction. I know that, like, logic. I understand Thomas Hickey. I appreciate him on the broadcast. I actually really like him as a broadcaster. Islanders have a way of bringing in some talent, and then they go off to national spotlight. And I think that's great as a way to get people into the business, but it's hard to separate. It seems like another compounding issue and just like something else. I know that's not what it is, but it's hard for me to separate it. You're just seeing dysfunction now on and off the ice, just simply not knowing what's happening. And I get they're frustrated. You're also a professional. I've said this for a long time. Figure it out. I can't stress that enough. That was what anybody would tell us at our job. Especially if there's a trend, and I understand they're under a different spotlight than maybe you or I are in our day jobs, but it just seems like continuing and compounding dysfunction, and I can't separate it. It's all wrapped up to me. It maybe like illogically as a fan, short for fanatic. I can't separate it. It's super difficult. I do want to. I'm just gonna hand the keys over to this half of the episode though, because you're on a little bit of a roll here. So I'm gonna let you keep going.
All right, so here's the thing. Ilya Sorokin now has started in 8 straight games, right? Obviously, Semyon Varlamov has been hurt dating back to December 23rd. Um, Look, they can't do this that much longer, right? Like, you can't start Ilya Sorokin every single game moving forward. They have Ken Appleby backing him up. Should we see the Islanders maybe look to the goaltending market? Like, do we have a definitive timetable on how long Semyon Varlamov is going to be out?
I think if they thought it was gonna be really long term, um, well, I think there's a way to kind of know if something's going to happen, and the problem is with the Islanders is that I think it's going to happen very quickly. I was thinking about this before. If all of a sudden he's on IR, it likely means they're trying to open a spot, or LTIR or something like that. So they might already. I don't know if he's on IR or LTIR. I haven't looked at that, but if his status actually changes, that might mean a move is coming. Right now, they may be trying to figure out what that move is, if they're even doing that at all. But this is a team that I think most teams in the NHL envy the situation. At least it was the backup and it wasn't Sorokin, and his timetable is unknown a little bit. At least it was Varlamov, and you still have kind of a world beater Sorokin. He's not quite been at that level, better as of late, but the team overall is not helping his numbers. There's just too many shots, too much volume of shots. So I don't know if that's where you put your resources, unless he's just out. Unless Varlamov is just out the rest of the season, I think you kind of ride Sorokin a little bit. We're halfway through the season now, and I was looking at his numbers, just the games played. He played 62 games last season. We did see him slip at times, and he was definitely burnt out by the playoffs. I'll say that. He seems to be comfortable in that 52 to 62, right? I think if he's on track to play more than that, and that's a heavy workload now. 60 games is crazy. It's not like gone are the days of Brodeur, but that's not far off from 70 games. Like, that's really close. And they rode him going into the playoffs. If they think Varlamov's going to be out for a long period of time, and they might already know that, is when they're going to start looking for a goalie. Now, problem is that market is dry and expensive. And
Well,
if they do have plans for an addition, they don't have the resources to do both. So you're likely just going to ride Sorokin maybe to the highest games played in a season than we've seen in a long time. It's like Vasilevsky. Has he played 70 games in a season? I don't know the last goalie to do it. And that might be kind of where we're headed, because we have 40 games left, right? Something like that. He might sniff it for sure. If you played 62 last year, and you're depending on Varlamov to play 20. Or he started 60. He played 62. Sorry.
So here's my
and he's halfway there.
With this, being spoken about, I look at a couple of teams who carry 3 goaltenders: Montreal, Detroit, Buffalo. Granted, these aren't teams who have winning records right now, but does it make sense that maybe a third goaltender should be, you know, something that teams are starting to put in their back pocket? I mean, there's only one of them on the ice, but it certainly is the team that has the least amount of depth across, the game of hockey. You lose one guy, the next best guy in the AHL isn't always necessarily great.
I think they don't have the talent split like Varlamov and Sorokin. So that, yeah, I think you are kind of rotating 3 goalies, or maybe even 4 goalies, depending on the injury situation. I don't know that always helps, and I don't know that that's long term sustainable. Like, I'd love to know teams that are doing that. Where are they in the standings? And in the past, have teams like that been successful? I think it shows you need to be confident as a team in front of your goalie, and when you're not, that's a big problem. So when you have goalies, even in back-to-backs, that you're not confident in that other guy, you just see how the team plays differently. The Islanders don't have that problem. I think they play largely the same in front of both goalies. Throwing a third guy in the mix and kind of being an unknown, whether that's from within the organization or via trade, I'm not sure that that's good for a team that is so tight. And I don't know that that's the answer. What have you seen as far as 3 goalies? Like, what teams are doing that right now?
It has less to do with the fact that teams are carrying 3 goaltenders because of it's working for them, and more of the fact that there's value in some of these, backups. The fact of the matter is that goaltenders are dropping like flies around the league. Like the Kings are dealing with injuries. Um, the the Islanders are dealing with injuries for a while. Tampa Bay was dealing with injuries. Carolina's dealing with injuries. Toronto's goaltending situation is a mess. Like a lot of these teams who are in the hunt need goaltending, and the fact of the matter is that they don't want to just put them on waivers and get nothing for them. So other teams are just kind of hoarding them. And that's the issue, is that there are teams who are overstocked with goaltending and other teams who are depleted. So do you now start to try and identify, okay, this guy is good enough to be a backup in the NHL. We already have a backup though. Maybe we make him our starter in our AHL team and then bring him up as a backup when necessary. That's
Like
just what I wonder. Because the
if
thing
the
is,
situation gets too dire, maybe, like I said, I think there's other needs that I would address as the Islanders to beef up your team. I don't know. I think that question only comes up if Varlamov is truly out the rest of the season. It really depends.
yeah,
Because again, they don't have the assets to do both. So you're either going to get a backup goalie and that's going to be it. Again, I don't know where they are with NHL contracts as well. Like they may just be at a certain point, you just can't make that many moves. Especially if you're going to like if you trade a prospect, like they're not even in the AHL, you're going to trade a prospect and a pick for somebody with an NHL contract. You simply might not be able to do that. I think they're close to 50, but if maybe it's 45, it's still pretty far away. So maybe they have the room there, but they don't really have the cap space. So someone's got to go. And again, if Varlamov is going to go on LTIR, that's 4.5. He's on injured reserve right now, but it's 275. That's a decent amount of money that they can save. Bortuzzo may be done for the season. And they're likely not putting him on LTIR so that they can accrue the cap space for the deadline, of which it looks like they'll have $1.5 million. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is. One way or another, I think it's been almost 10 years since a goalie. I looked it up. It's been 10 years since a goalie played over 70 games or more. After last season, it seems like 60 games is too much for Sorokin. As far as the playoffs, he had great regular season numbers. He needs to play less than that to be really successful in the playoffs and for the team to be successful. It may just be that it's catching up with him now on top of just being overworked game after game. And that's probably the biggest concern. That I can see from your perspective. You need to bring somebody else in. At a certain point, you might just also need to try Ken Appleby. We've seen crazier shit happening. Martin Jones playing well. Jonathan Quick playing well.
right.
It could just be that your guy is okay and the team plays well. Like you got to give him a shot at some point. The Martin Jones played actual back-to-back games, not just 3 in a row, but a back-to-back. And I don't know. I think they won. Other teams are doing that as well. You might just need to try. Look at Vegas last season. Literally just guy. Unheard of names. Who's Aiden Hill before that? Unless you're a Vegas fan. I don't know. Maybe Ken Appleby is that guy that they can just steal him. It was kind of what we were. And looking at their AHL numbers is not great. That is not always an indication. And it's also, if he plays well in 5 games here, does not mean he's even ever going to be in the NHL after that. Right? He only needs to play well in 5 games.
Right.
And some of this, and maybe this is where this is stemming from your reaction right now, is that you're not confident Lambert would pick the right fucking games. They'd be
That's
like,
true,
oh yeah,
too.
the Avalanche. What are you, an idiot? What are you, a fucking moron? No, dude. Play him against Ottawa. Play him,
Right.
play him against Montreal. Play him against
Chicago.
Play him, you got to choose those games more carefully. But and it's also a matter of where can I get Sorokin like a week's rest? Right. I'm glad he's not in the All-Star game. That we don't have to worry about that. He's let him do his thing. Get some rest. But that's kind of where I would. Who are the Islanders playing right up until the All-Star break? What is their? Do you know their schedule offhand?
Hold on, I have it. So when is the All-Star break? The February what?
It's after the 27th,
Okay,
right?
so they
So
have
between this 27th and February 5th.
okay, so they have the Wild, the Jets, the Blackhawks, the Stars, the Golden Knights, Canadians, the Panthers, the Leafs, the Lightning.
No, the
Listen,
Panthers is the last game, and then I think it's the break. No, there's a huge.
this is January, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the
so
Panthers are the 27th, and then February 5th is our next game. So there's a
for some
good
reason I'm
chunk.
thinking, yeah, I got my dates mixed up with the Stadium Series. Sorry. So
So I would play
um,
Sorokin maybe against the Panthers because that's a good team, but
yeah,
let Appleby play against the Blackhawks and Canadians.
I think he could also play against the Wild. They're not playing well right now.
I think that's a game you just need to win at this point, and you figured every once in a while they beat the Leafs, right, or they play a good game, but they get crushed by the Canucks. That's a shitty game. 2 games in a row where they allow 5 goals. And 3 out of the 4 games around that point, they allow 5 goals. Avalanche, Golden Knights, and Canucks, all 5 goal games against. Coyotes, whatever. I don't really care about that win. That's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. The Maple Leafs felt like a good victory, but they just can never carry that momentum. It's too emotional playing that team, which is kind of silly at this point. But yeah, then they drop, two quick goals, went to being 3 goals against the Predators. They need this win against the Wild. The Jets are super good. After that, give them a rest. Give them
So
between the 16th and the 21st that's 5 days. Give Sorokin a 5-day rest. And then have him come back, play the Stars, play the Golden Knights. Then give him another 5 days or 4 days. Have Ken Appleby play the Canadians. Then he comes in for the Panthers. And then he has another week off. I think that'd be a great way to end the month and go into February, where he plays 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games between now and February 5th. That's great. That's nearly a month. That's 3 weeks and change-ish, right? Have him play 5 games between now and then. That's perfect.
So just for context with the Minnesota Wild, and you're well stated, well said. The Wild are 1-7-1 in their last 9 games. In each of the losses, they've given up 4 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals, 7 goals, 4 goals, and 6 goals.
So I'll do my best Dan Sarcini impression from Twitter. Congratulations on Marc-Andre Fleury getting passing Patrick Waugh in a win against the New York Islanders. That's what that fucking means. You know that's what that we have been here. We've done this podcast for too long. We've been fans for too fucking long. Congratulations to Fleury on passing Waugh in wins in a win against the New York Islanders on at 6 o'clock on Monday.
Man.
I'm even going to say it on the other show later. And if he doesn't say it first, and we only get credit for it first because we're recording earlier, but I know he will also say that. I know he's going to say it before the game on Monday. He'll tweet it out. Hell, I know occasionally he even listens to our show. So that's going to fucking happen. And that would be such an Islanders move to be like, and I think rightfully taking your approach. The Wild aren't playing well right now. Yeah, give him a rest. Give Sorokin an even additional game. So he's playing 4 games between now and February 5th. That makes a logical sense. But as we started the show, they've abandoned that. They need to win this fucking game. And in a lot of games, you need to play the goalie that's going to help you win. Back-to-back situations. You're like, if they were playing the Wild and the Jets back-to-back, and even if it was Varlamov and Sorokin, the way that I've understood it in some situations and how some coaches view it is, which game can you absolutely win? Put your better goalie in for that. I don't think that's how
You're right.
everybody treats it, but I know that that is at times. Sometimes it's confusing. You see, like, why is the better goalie playing against the weaker team?
No,
Just
you're right. Yeah.
get the bag, right? In this case, that is such a trap game. It's like the most Islanders shit ever.
I'm currently reading one of Dan's banger tweets from last week. It says Jeff Marek. Connor Gauthier traded for the Flyers to Anaheim amid reports he didn't want to play in Philly. Are you surprised Matvey Michkov hasn't requested a trade because of Ed Van Imp did because of what Ed Van Imp did to Valery Karlamov in 1976? Elliot taking an ice bath. Not really.
Dude, it's so good.
It really is so good. It really is. I
Yeah,
he follows it up with this trade. Is Pat Verbeek still in the lead for the Jim Gregory NHL GM of the Year award, or has Steve Stais and Bill Guerin still stepped into the race for each? Elliot in 3 Slack chats with Verbeek, Stais, and Guerin. There's still deals to be made, Jeff. It's too good. It really is. I love it.
yeah. He has an incredible sense of humor. And again,
It's
great
very
addition
good.
last week, stepping in for you. Yeah, so I think it's tough. I think in an ideal world you do that. So and that's a back to back situation.
Yeah.
So you might see Ken Appleby against the Wild. That may be the strategy that they take, and they do play Sorokin against the Wild and Appleby against the Jets. You may see that as a back to back situation. Then they have
Yeah,
3
you
days
could.
off. So part of what we were talking about as a strategy, the other way around and playing Sorokin against the Wild, then he's off until Friday. You're giving him like 3 or 4 days, with some travel, but he's not playing. Okay, that's great. Throw Ken Appleby to the Wolves. You probably weren't going to win that game anyway. It sucks that we have to think that way. And then he doesn't, hell, play Ken Appleby against the Jets and Blackhawks, and so Sorokin doesn't play until Sunday the 21st. Like if we're worried about the thinking about the goalie situation in a kind of in a vacuum and not trying to get points, which is freaking crazy. But if that's a strategy and you're trying to just leverage, you don't know how long Varlamov's going to be out, and trying to leverage any time that you can, that might be something that they consider. Because then you're going to need to play him against the Stars and then the Golden Knights. And then you can get him a few days off, another 4 days off before the Panthers or something like that. And Appleby can play against the Canadians. It'll be an interesting kind of wrap up to January. They've just screwed up so much. They had an opportunity to put space between them and the Penguins. They just don't do it. They lose games to the Capitals. They lose games to people in the Eastern Conference. And then they go out west, and they could have done really well and have also still been in the situation in the second wild card because the rest of the teams continue to do well around them. So now we're just stuck. Now they did both bad. They had an opportunity to separate. They didn't do it. They had an opportunity on this road trip and playing some really good teams to at least keep up, and they're not doing it. Then what? That's where I don't understand, even after the All-Star break, if this was another team, does Lambert, if we didn't know or didn't think rather that Lambert should have been fired after that West Coast trip, if the Islanders falter the rest of the January before the All-Star break, but they're still in it, that's another one of those moments. If it wasn't then, it's got to be now. But like we said to start the show, we know that's not going to happen. But if there's ever an opportunity, it's then. I mean, frankly, as soon as possible is obvious, but given what we know, that's not likely to happen. But if there was another opportunity, it may be coming up. If they play well the rest of January, it's a different conversation. But they're losing opportunities to bank points and build momentum with wins in a row. And when's the last time they won 2 games in a row?
That was back on December 11th and 13th. They won 2 in a row, but that was also on a 4-game stretch. So between December 7th and 13th. They won 4 in a row.
Yeah. So since then, they have not won 2 in a row.
No, but they've lost 2 in a row.
And they haven't collected points in consecutive games since then.
No. That is since December 19th and 20th.
Okay, fair.
And 23rd.
Okay,
So
fair.
December 23rd. Yeah.
So almost a month for that. And they had
Yeah.
not won 2 in a row since early December. A month.
Right.
It's not good, Bob. It's not
good,
good.
Bob.
So this is like, again, like they faltered. So that whole notion of collecting points and just getting into the playoffs, that thread is gone. They haven't done it. That narrative, just wipe it away. No more loser points. It's over. They're not even able to do that anymore. And as Dan put it, I forget if he tweeted or whatever, it's a march toward missing the playoffs. They've begun the decline. And if that's not obvious for Lamoriello to do anything, I don't know what is. I mean, go get another goalie, I guess. I mean, if that's what you think is going to help, but like do something.
All right, let's wrap up the show with some All-Star game talk. Do we have questions you wanted to address?
We had 2 quick questions, and we may have already answered it. And we kind of do this all the time, so I kind of apologize. Ariel Wood, long-time listener to the show, they often ask us a lot of questions. When does the coach get fired? The next opportunity is, in my opinion, as I just said, is during the All-Star break or the end of the season. Frankly, that's it. It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no other opportunity as far as I see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would have said a couple of weeks ago that you wait till the end of the season just to see what this team is. But I think that they've proven that they win, like we said earlier, in spite of the coach. So with the guy right behind the bench, if you have the opportunity and you can bring in somebody with more structure, do it.
Yeah, I absolutely. Michael Valdini. I don't know that I've seen a question from them, so thanks for the question, Mike. He said, at the end of the season, what major shakeups need to happen in order for this team to come back to reality? I'll let you answer this first because I think we'll have the same answer or similar answer.
Yeah. I mean, obviously what we just spoke about, the coaching. Look, I don't necessarily believe that the Islanders need major shakeups on the blue line. I think the first pair of Dobson and Romanov, that being your first pair is a big deal. I think they're playing fantastic. We've said this before too. Having Pollock and Pellick on the second pair is huge. I mean, look, are they what they used to be? Maybe not exactly, but they're still strong defensemen who are a really good tandem. I think a lot of teams would find themselves lucky to have them as blue liners together on their team. And that means that Scott Mayfield is a third pairing defenseman where he belongs, and you have Riley to choose from, Bortuzzo when he's healthy, Aho's back there. Am I missing anybody? Like there's defensemen to choose from for 6th and 7th D. I don't think they necessarily need one. Go get a friggin' top 6 scorer, solidify that top 6, and go for it, man. You have the parts.
I think there is an opportunity with the cap going up and some other players coming off the books, and whether you move on from Wallstrom or leverage him, his RFA status to trade for that top 6 player with something else after the draft. Look, or whatever the case is. I think there's an opportunity there for sure.
Oliver Wallstrom clearly not worked in this environment. Maybe he does somewhere else. It's always, I know a lot of people will say, oh, the minute you trade him, he's going to be a good player. Maybe that's just if he's not going to be a good player here, then get something for him. It doesn't matter what he does once you trade him. So you trade him because it's not working here. Get something that will work here.
So I agree with all that. I think aside from moving on from the coach, And I think we know some of this from just looking at cap friendly, Clutterbuck and Martin coming off the books. I think it's, as much as we've enjoyed a run with the identity line, and as I said before, how that identity was forged in that fight night game in 2011, and as much as that team was so different, that thread has continued really with some of those guys that had continued with the team for so long. And that weight and the identity that I think puts it there on their shoulders needs to be shed. So not only are they just not playing well, but I think it's time, if even if Lambert doesn't get fired, I think Lamoriello has to take those tools away from him and allow him to create a new identity. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe if you ask Lambert about it, it's, well, they're here and they are a part of this team and its identity. So I'm going to use it. I don't like that answer, but I understand it. And at this point, I think you need to take those tools away and just move on. So the weight of this team's identity over the last decade and almost a half, we need to move on from it and kind of retool a little bit. I think fashioning is a good way to move forward in a lot of respects, but to bring the team to reality, I think that's kind of where I would focus my energy as well. I think obviously bringing in a player in the top 6 and just truly fucking move on and do the goddamn thing that we were waiting for forever. But I think just as much moving on from players that have just kind of weighed the team down from moving forward into a new identity. I think it's time.
All right, let's talk about the All-Star game real quick. The final rosters have been put together. The last 12 candidates for to be voted in have been. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. It's 4 Maple Leafs that are going to the All-Star game, in addition to who was it? Austin Matthews at first. Additionally, it's another 4 Vancouver Canucks. I mean, okay, I guess. One of the things that really struck me as odd was, and again, I understand, get as many reps in from the host city as you can, but look, Morgan Riley being named an all-star when he's, although an excellent defenseman, over Noah Dobson, I mean, that's a serious snub to me. And I'm not just saying, this isn't Islander bias. I'm talking about, look at the Norris race, right? The Norris race has largely become which defenseman scores the most points. Well, if we're going to look at that, right, Noah Dobson is up there, right? He's got 10 more points than Morgan Riley as a whole. And let me just filter this here. Defenseman. Okay, Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, then Noah Dobson. Are you kidding? So Quinn Hughes is going. Cale Makar is going. Noah Dobson is the next one on that list, and he's not going.
This was fan voted, right?
It was fan voted.
So that doesn't surprise me. The Islanders are not going to get love. They don't have that spotlight. My next
question, though. Does this matter?
I don't. I mean, I don't know that I think the players are always like, they're just very humble, and I don't know that they actually care about doing that. Maybe they have a bonus that it helps or something like that, like make the All-Star game and you get an extra blah blah blah, and that matters. Like, whatever. We all have these little incentives, but I don't know that it really matters. I'd rather. After DiPietro, I'm so nervous about any Islanders doing anything that's not a regular season game. Even going to the Olympics, like everyone's like, Brock Nelson isn't on a projected. Dude, I do not give a shit. Keep him home. It does not bother
rested,
me.
Stay healthy.
Stay rested and healthy. Sorokin, God, Shesterkin should start every game as far as I don't give a shit. I don't care if you like. It's not even an argument who I think is better, and it's really close. I don't care. Russia or whatever the artist formerly known as Russia or whatever they are in international competition at this point for a whole host of reasons. Yeah, sure can start every game. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? Like
I
Barzell, they're like, oh, he's on the fourth line, projected. Great. So he plays 5 minutes a night. Fantastic. I don't care. It doesn't. I can't tell you how much it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
You know, from that perspective, it is cool to get the recognition as a fan and having Islanders kind of be recognized and get their 15 minutes. But after Tavares, after DiPietro, I super don't give a shit. It personally does not matter. It gave us a cool jersey last year on accident with Horvat. Great. The Western Conference jersey with the Islander logo. Awesome.
We both have one.
We do both have one, and we should have worn it today.
Yeah, that would be maybe closer to the All-Star game. We'll throw them on.
Yeah, we were just being lazy, but yeah, I don't care.
Speaking of All-Star jerseys, did you see the All-Star jerseys?
So there's two ways I think about the NHL right now, and I similarly to the Isles Lab store. And a quick aside, so I'm with a friend of mine. I went to that Caps game at the end of December, and we're going through and we're seeing some of this stuff, and they straight up just annihilated some original Islander fishermen and wave jerseys to like make jackets. And whoever made that decision, straight to jail. I can't believe you just mutilated these absolute gems. And instead of selling the originals, which would have made you a shit ton of money, instead you made these, you know, to me, ridiculous looking jackets. Having said that, similar to these jerseys and similar to what Isles Lab is doing, it is not for me. I don't need to like them. I don't. But it's not for me, right? They've clearly, if you look at the photos, they're marketing this to a different generation. I don't like that it's not me anymore, selfishly. Last year it was. We had our moment. The reverse retros and all that stuff. And they were like, all right, 90s babies, all you nostalgia folks born in the 80s and 90s, and that remember that we're gonna move on. And now it's not for you. So as much as last year, everyone's like, who cares? Like, I can understand younger people, maybe in their 20 years old or 15 years old or something, being like, yeah, I guess they were cool, but like, I don't remember that. So, I've seen it. Like, my dad has a hockey card with Mark Messier and like, yeah, they've seen it before, or like Dominic Hasek or some shit. Yeah. And this year, it's not for us. They look ridiculous, but it's not for us. I don't even know what.
Ridiculous.
I need to look at them again. What's the background behind the logo? What is that, like a
star? It's a giant star.
And I need to look at it again. It doesn't look like that.
There's also 4 little stars around the NHL logo, and it's just, I mean, especially the yellow one. It's too much. Like, I can't even.
You know what? I don't mind the yellow. Like, the color isn't what bothers me. First of all, the red one looks like some Soviet era jersey.
I think by and large,
different
the
problem.
White one is the best one. The white one's the best one for like hands down.
That's clean. The red one is very McDonald's looking. Don't like that.
Yeah,
it looks
and it's got the Adidas stripes on the sleeve, and the only one that doesn't have that yellow stripes with the black stripes is on the white one, because the white one is just black stripes with a white base.
Yeah, they've really, outside of last year, they've botched this by and large for like a long time.
The nameplates.
Oh, I didn't even see that. What's up with the nameplates?
On the bottom.
Now? What?
They're under the numbers.
You sure Fanatics didn't make the jerseys?
It's Adidas.
That sounds like a mistake. They're like, so we ordered these, and like the league. I picture Gary Bettman, because he's such a micromanager, literally gets the boxes delivered to his office and all his little interns are bringing the jerseys in. He's like, these are the official ones. I'm like, great. And he pulls them out, and they're wrong. And he's like, now we got to own it. Now this is the jersey. So, like, we're not going to send them back. We don't have time. We need to release it. We like the thing tomorrow. This is, it sounds like a mistake. I don't think it is. Like, I think
they're actually looking at the jersey with the nameplate on the bottom.
No, I'm trying to find a photo.
Okay, I'm going to send it to you because I have it here
with them. I'm going through just Google. Some of the old ones are so cool.
I DM'd it to you.
The early 90s ones are so good.
So you'll see
even the 2022 ones are good.
You'll see in this photo the 4 people standing or sitting on the couch. The one that has the nameplate under the 24 is standing backwards.
All right, opening. Is that not Justin Bieber in the yellow one? I'm seeing that correctly? All right, I was like, is that not him?
He had a hand in the design of it.
Okay, that's a choice. Oh my god! All right, so the kid in the jeans that's sitting down. Just a quick aside before I get to the nameplate. So I saw like you had sent me this earlier, and I was looking at the thing. I was like, is he wearing goalie pads? They looked like street hockey. No, literally just ripped up Junko jeans from 1998.
Yeah, really oversized baggy jeans are back in.
Yeah, it's sure, bring them back. I don't care. I'm not buying new jeans. So they're on the bottom. This looks like, is that like Comic Sans numbers? What are those goofy numbers?
Yeah,
they're huge, and then the font is weird. Not to be like really picky, but like this looks ridiculous.
So the market for these jerseys is ages 5 through 12, and that's it.
They're very Happy Meal things. I'll say this. I'll say what I like about them because we don't need to end the show this negative. I don't mind the yellow one, frankly. The color schemes are okay for the most part. White one definitely the best. I do like the stripes on the arms with the stars. The logo with the stars and the star behind it, it looks like a banana or like the Super Mario star behind it. Like, it's just very cartoonish looking to me. Again, and somebody with a marketing or graphic design background that keeps up with this shit would know better than me. That's not where my marketing background is. And I certainly don't keep up with it. But it looks goofy and round, and they even rounded out the NHL logo. Like, it's not, there's the point at the bottom, but it looks like maybe they modified it to just kind of fit together. I don't know. Overall, I don't get it.
You should just type in onto Google NHL All-Star Jersey and look at some of the memes. I mean, they're just fantastic. I'm going to send you my favorite one right now. I can't get over how good this meme is.
Oh my god, yeah, no, it's Patrick Star.
Patrick Star. It's so good.
Dude, that's on someone print that. Someone just make the shirt and put it on Etsy or wherever. I'm so disappointed.
So good.
Just looking through some of the older ones. Some of them they just absolutely just did not do a good job. Some of them they're not good and they're just lack of trying, like they're boring, but they're not like bad. They've done like these yellow ones and like some of the different colors, and I think they're fine. The 2018 ones are terrible. I think we've kind of forgotten about that. The ones, the black and green, and then the white and green ones are really bad. I don't even know what year that was. 2015. So some of them have like not been good, but this is the first time that it's just like super not for people over 30 years old or like in and around that age group. So it's as a person with only old Islanders stuff, I'm not the person to make a comment on any of the new things, including even the retro reverse, like the Fisherman jersey. It wasn't for me. It was partly for me, but partly for a new generation. And that's fine. That's great. So I don't know that this is.
Go look at what I just sent you. It's too good.
I'll end my thoughts with this. It's clearly like the All-Star game isn't even for me. So I don't expect the jerseys to reflect that. Like last year's was a disaster. Like that All-Star game was a mess. So
But the jerseys rocked.
yeah, but jerseys are cool. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I said. It looks like the Super Mario star from N64. That's ridiculous.
Good. It's too good.
Yeah, we're all in the Carl's Jr. one is so good. Dude. That's such a joke. This league. Just hire graphic designers, please. Like people that know what they're doing. And you know what? What I want to know is, what are the jersey sales? Are they going up when they change it? Like after this season, right? I want to see compared to last year or the year before that. Are they selling? Because if they're selling, fine. That's the business. Do the thing that's going to sell you the jerseys. Our opinions aren't going to change that, right? So yeah, I don't know. They're a little messy to me. I think we've gone on a little too long on the jerseys. We should also, while we're talking about jerseys, and you just absolutely, you may as well send a wet fart in a text to me afterwards. When I sent you the hat from the Isles Lab and said potential Islanders Stadium Series jersey, and you said, you're like, maybe it's just a hat. I was like, good. I'm really glad this isn't the show, because that would have been such a good way to, like, what a bad improv partner to be like, nope. Our next segment, like, great. What are we supposed to like work with me here? Like, yeah, just a thing. But what do you think those jerseys are going to be? Well, I
wish we knew. I mean, it's January 14th. The game is in less than a month.
Yeah, this isn't loading for me. What did you do? How did you break my computer from over there?
I don't know. I apologize, but the game is in less than a month, so I would have thought we would have known by now. It would be really cool if the Islanders got a little creative with it, instead of just, here's a different sequence of lines at the bottom of the jersey in a different order of colors. But yeah, I don't know. It would be I would love to see a crest of the lighthouse as the main logo. That would rock.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know. You and I've kind of argued about this over the years. I don't fully like that, even though I sent you that cool Koyo band shirt that has the lighthouse kind of prominently on it. But I said go look at the photo that I sent you in our chat. Actually, I'll put it in Twitter, because that seems to where you love. And I do see the Doritos. That's very funny. Photo. I'm sending this to you. We'll also post. Oh, freaking of course. I can't do it now, but it's the New York logo. It looks like some of the old Stadium Series jerseys, but it has the wave with the green on it and the lighthouse right in the middle. Cool. That'd be a dope jersey.
It would be.
Like a white version of that, or an orange version of that would be very cool.
Yeah, I think that would definitely rock.
And that's like, people are looking for Easter eggs, and that's like, I saw that and I was like, that's the only thing that's very different than a lot of other things that's remotely interesting. So yeah, we'll post it on Twitter. I think it's it could be something. I hope I'm right, just so that you're wrong, frankly, because you just like, again, you were just like, nah. You said, quote, I mean, maybe, but it's not out of the question. It's just a hat design.
All right, for
and
the
then
context,
as always, you said, lol.
For the context, I'm dealing with the same thing in Devil's Land, where people are tagging me in this red scarf with a black Devils silhouette logo, that they're like, did they just release the Stadium Series alternate jersey or Stadium Series jersey? And I'm like, it could just be, the colors of the team and a black logo. It's not that far off. So it's just, I think that's why I was in that mindset. It would be very cool to see that jersey with the logo that you sent.
Yeah, we'll post it, because I think it is very good. All right. I think we're done. This is a long show. I need to take a break. And hopefully by next week we have some wins to talk about, or something positive, some momentum. Yep. They're collecting points. They go 0-5 or 4 or whatever the fuck. Hopefully, if Ken Appleby does play, he gets a win in one of these next 2 games, Monday or Tuesday. And we'll go from there. So please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Nesman Hockey. You can find James' work at New Jersey Hockey Now and The Fourth Period. And you can catch me on this week's edition of Islanders Anxiety, if that's not your first show that you listen to anyway this week. James, bring us home.
Till next time, let's go Islanders.